So welcome to the Nick and Matt's podcast. Today we interview Jonny Blair, who is a Ulster Cherry. He's supports the Northern Ireland national team and the AFC Bournemouth. He's a writer, a blogger. He's been to over 200 countries. So we thought, what better way to know a bit more about him than interview him. So here's the interview. I'm going to start off. Yeah, I'm in Sydney.
Yeah.
Where are you, Matt? You say can you see what he's written? He's got la mano de Dios. Can you see that?
Yeah, that's Spanish, isn't it?
I know.
Hand of God.
Yeah.
I'm not joking. I just went. I got to put something else in, and then I just came up with it. It just went hand of God. Diego Maradona.
Well, actually, Callum Wilson scored a goal with his hand once, if you remember.
Oh, West Ham.
Callum Wilson sneaked one in against West Brom. It came in off his hand, and this was about 2 seasons before we had this VAR system. So obviously it was given as a goal, but he definitely handled it. He did a hand of Callum Wilson.
Wow. Was he asked? Did he get a touch there? And he said a touch of magic. Was that when he?
It could have been. Actually, I haven't seen his interview. Obviously, saw Diego Maradona's interview after the famous one, but no, I don't know the Callum one. It's a good one.
Yeah. You talk about Diego Maradona. Do you remember the '86 World Cup?
The reason I remember it is because Northern Ireland were in it. So it was like the biggest thing. It was the biggest event in my childhood. The 1986 World Cup, because Northern Ireland, we have 1.8 million people, right?
Yeah.
And so half of those people are female, and out of that, so that gets us like less than 1 million men to choose from to play for the national team, right? And then when you dig it down even deeper to that, you're talking about we've only 100,000 people to choose from, really, because loads of that million are too old or retired or young or they're kids or they support Republic of Ireland or they don't like football. So we're actually choosing 11 players from 100,000. It's like San Marino. Yeah, it's like San Marino when you put it like that.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was going to say my first proper World Cup was Spain '82.
Yeah.
Because and I remember it especially because I was about to move to Spain, and I do remember the Northern Ireland team. I think there was a guy. Is it Norman Whitehouse?
Whiteside.
Was he?
Whiteside, yeah.
Whiteside, and he was he the youngest at the time to play for Northern Ireland?
Yeah, on the 17th of June or the 16th of June 1982, he started the game against Yugoslavia. It was Northern Ireland against Yugoslavia, and Whiteside was 17 years old. Only just like about a month or so before that, he turned 17, and he broke the record. The previous record was held by Pele.
Was it?
But Norman Whiteside didn't score in that World Cup. He scored in the next one. So he didn't break Pele's youngest scoring record, but he's got the youngest player record. He's got the youngest ever yellow card, because obviously
I'm proud of that.
Well, it proves that we were fighting to try and stay in the tournament. He got a yellow card against Yugoslavia, which in the 1980s you didn't get any yellow cards.
I was about to say, to get a yellow card back then, you'd have had to almost take them out head height, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, he must have decapitated the guy because we drew 0-0 with them, and that was a great Yugoslavia team.
Because was Yugoslavia called the Brazil of Europe or something, or was it a similar nickname that they had? They had some nickname. I'm not sure what it was, but they were highly talented.
Yeah, I just remember the team. They had like Stojkovic, players like that. There was a guy that played for Man City, played for Luton. He scored the winner against Man City. Radiantic.
Oh, Radiantic.
He's only capped once or twice, I think, but he was also from Yugoslavia.
Was he then became a manager, didn't he? Antic. Was it Radomir Antic?
Yeah,
he actually went to Spain.
Yugoslavia.
Yeah, he went to Atletico Madrid because I remember they loved him there, Atletico Madrid, and Antic was, yeah, no, he was a well known, and also I might say going back to Spain '82, I remember Northern Ireland actually beat Spain, didn't they? 1-0.
Yeah,
And that was a
There was-
massive shock because
yeah.
of the host country.
yeah.
Hey,
I
sorry,
mean,
I've just done a bit of fact checking, and it does say
Oh no,
the
what's it
Blues,
got?
Brazilians of Europe.
all right.
Who was?
Yeah, it says Plava, Plava, the Blues, Brazilians of Europe,
Mhm.
1945 to 92.
Yeah,
That's it. My
Right.
head hurts now because I had to do some work.
Yugoslavia.
Yeah,
Oh man, yeah, I remember now. Also from swapping football cards and things. Obviously, we used to have Pat Jennings at Arsenal.
Mm.
And correct me if I'm right. Was it Sammy Mackle? Was he from Northern Ireland?
Yeah. I mean, I've met him. He was the manager for us as well, but he was the captain in 1986. So 1982, Martin O'Neill was the captain. You know, we had such great players
wow.
then that went on to be, bigger
Yeah.
names. Like Martin O'Neill has been excellent as a manager and a pundit, so O'Neill's almost got 3 careers. He won the European Cup with Nottingham Forest. It
Yeah.
doesn't get any better than that, does it?
Nah.
He was. I think he did an interview with Patrick Vieira one day. I think it was Martin O'Neill and Patrick Vieira, and Vieira started looking at O'Neill, thinking, "What has he ever won?" And at that point, Martin O'Neill had won 2 European Cups, and Patrick Vieira hadn't even won it once.
Wow.
But of course, I think Patrick Vieira probably did win that. I think he probably won the World Cup. But Martin O'Neill, a great hero of ours, and was the captain in 1982 when we beat Spain and won the group.
Awesome.
Wow. O'Neill was probably one of the few managers I think Cloughie actually turned around and said that he was all right.
Yeah.
And that's only because he probably came from Forest.
Yeah, because Clough trained him up, obviously.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, we love talking about Cloughie, didn't we?
Ah,
Some of the stuff we look back now and thinking there'll never ever be another manager like Brian Clough.
Yeah, he was punching players on the pitch. Do you remember that? There was
that was fans.
He started
That
punching
was the
them.
fans, wasn't it? It was
Fans,
the
yeah,
fans.
that's what I meant. Yeah.
Last night I was cleaning the garage out and tidying it up, and that's all I was listening to was stories about Cloughie.
Mm.
That's all I was. He intrigues me so much about how people used to look up to him. He was brilliant. I say this. It sounds like I sound, what's the word, as if he's not great, but it's like people used to look up to him, and then when they talk about him, like who's the pundit, the Irish lad, Republic of Ireland,
Roy Keane, is it?
Yeah, Roy Keane. He said he punched me in the chest. No hard feelings. That's how it was.
Yeah.
Imagine that now.
Yeah.
Cool. You wouldn't hear the end of it, would you?
No,
Absolutely not. Now I've got to ask you a question, Johnny. How many Northern Ireland shirts do you have? Because I've seen you in a few, and I was just wondering.
Yeah. So if you're talking, obviously the main shirts that I have are Bournemouth and Northern Ireland. So Cherries have probably got about 7 or 8 homes and about the same of aways or third kits, whatever. Northern Ireland, I've probably got about 30 homes and about, I think actually since 1995, there's only one home shirt that I didn't buy, and there's only one home shirt that I lost. So the one I lost was the year 2001. I lost it in Bournemouth, actually, in 2006. Because I remember how I lost it. It was in a bar called Consortium. So
I know it.
It used to be on the corner near W.H. Smith at the Moon in the Square and all that. Yeah,
that's correct. So
I was on a night out and I put the Northern Ireland shirt onto, somebody had a cardboard cutout of a Star Wars figure. So I've stuck the Northern Ireland shirt on that. I asked the bouncer in Consortium, is it okay if we take this like fake Star Wars guy in down to the dance floor? And he's like, yeah, that's cool. But after a few sherbets in there, I forgot that I'd left it there. And then I went back the next day and it was gone. So
what year was this?
Yeah, 2000. It was actually during the Mexico-Argentina World Cup match in 2006, because I had a load of Northern Ireland supporters down in Bournemouth for the day. We'd arranged a big day out in Bournemouth. We watched Germany, Sweden. I think it was a World Cup quarter final, or it might have been a last 16. We watched it in we did a pub crawl. We did like Bar Vin, we did Daisy O'Brien's. We did like a few of these bars. We sold Daisy O'Brien's out of Guinness that day.
Hey, it was a good pint there of Guinness,
brilliant.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
It's gone. It's, one of those, because, Bournemouth has this like pedestrian precinct, the bit where there's no cars. And Daisy's was the only pub at that time on that little pedestrian bit.
Yeah.
So, you go in there and guys are sitting having a pint while their wives are doing their shopping.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's almost a perfect excuse to get rid of a lady for the afternoon so she can go and do her shopping. And I'm going in here to have a pint. Daisy's, and that was the same night where I lost one of those Northern Ireland shirts. And the other one I didn't buy was the 2016 one as a protest, because a lot of us fans felt that when we qualified for the Euros that year, we deserved a better kit. They gave us this really bad quality kit with dark blue, so it was green, but the dark blue, and then there's this stupid lighter blue stripe in the middle of it, which just looked out of place. So myself and loads of fans boycotted it, and we also thought the IFA were trying to make money on us, with an extra shirt that we didn't need really.
I bet it's worth a lot of money now. Could probably add it. No one bought it.
No, because too many people bought it, and they were all made in China anyway.
Oh man!
I mean, I don't even know where this one is made. Is it made in China, Indonesia, or Boscombe?
Is that the Seaward one? That's the Seaward one, isn't it?
It does say Seaward on it. It's Vauxhall, isn't it? Yeah, that was in Boscombe actually.
Yeah, I remember those old
sort of promotion days. Cardiff Millennium Stadium was the season after the Millennium.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Did you actually go to that final?
No, because I'm not a glory hunter. I know I'm joking. Some of the games that I've been to will surprise you, because I've missed a lot of big ones. And I've never been to Chelsea away, and we've beaten them like 3-0 there. We beat them 1-0, I think, twice. And, so I've missed all the Chelsea games. I also seem to be bad luck for a few. I mean, when I go to a big stadium, we normally lose. Like Man City away, 5-1, we were beaten. Although it was 1-1 at one point. Yeah, doesn't matter. Final score, we lost 5-1. I've been to Anfield, Goodison, Old Trafford, lost all those ones.
Yeah. Well, you should be me, because I went to the 9-0 at Liverpool.
Oh.
I thought at 8-0, we were talking about it last week, weren't we? But 8-0, I thought I left and I went to get some curry and chips.
Yeah, that was the highlight, wasn't it?
That was the highlight. I'm thinking, man, this drowned my sorrows.
Yeah.
But oh man,
Scott Parker's last game. We kind of needed that 9-0 thrashing to get rid of Scott Parker.
Yes, can you imagine where we'd be?
Even though he took us up, but the times have changed now. So.
Oh man, that was really. I mean, I managed to see 4 games at the start of the 2022-23 season, and Aston Villa, we won, but then everything else. But I mean, it was a tough run of fixtures. It was Man City away, Arsenal at home, and then Liverpool away. So I mean, what could we expect? I guess it was just. But that was the time I was there. I was in Europe. I thought I'd go in summertime and get the longest days, and rather than going in winter and being inside by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, wanted to make it worthwhile. So, who do you support in Northern Ireland? Do you have a team in Northern Ireland, or?
My dad played Irish League. He played for a few teams, and he kind of he came away from that to become an electrician and a customer service manager eventually, because there wasn't enough money in the game, and he was playing. When as a kid, my dad was playing. He'd play on a Saturday and he'd play on a Tuesday night, and he'd be knackered because he'd been working all week. So I'd go to watch my dad play for a team called Dunmurry Rec. So Dad played for Dunmurry Rec, but I actually started watching him when he played for Bangor Amateurs, which is basically like in the 4th or 5th division of Northern Ireland. But every week, so he'd drive to the match and the car would be parked there beside the pitch, right? So I'd be watching the match with the other kids that their dads were playing. And the radio would be on. You'd have like 5 Live, you'd have your Radio 5 on, you'd be listening to the scores of all the games. And it was always, like the video printer days where you got, 4:45 p.m., Wolverhampton Wanderers 1, Huddersfield Town 1, Liverpool 0, Southampton 0.
Yeah,
and it was
brilliant.
Every week that would be the system as a kid. But so really, I should say that Dunmurry Rec and Bangor Amateurs, because my dad played, those are the 2 teams that I should support. But my friends were Glentoran fans, and my dad is actually a Glentoran fan as well. And in fact, he was born on a street called Glentoran Street. And Glentoran was traditionally one of the biggest clubs in Northern Ireland, if not in those days, if not Europe, because we won the Vienna Cup in 1914. First ever British team to win an international trophy in mainland Europe, I believe, the Vienna Cup, 1914, because the war started about 2 months after that. So we went and we beat Sparta Prague and Rapid Vienna and some other Czech and German team, beat them away. We won the final 5-0, and then the war started. So Glentoran, long story short, which is always the case with me, Glentoran is my Northern Irish team, and I do support them, and I would pop back and see them, when I'm back every now and then. Having said that, there's a lot of controversy with Glentoran, so we're not the easiest club to support, and they're not the easiest club to like.
If you don't mind me asking, what's the controversy? I got no idea.
Yeah, so there's a few, and this is coming from my personal opinion. Whenever Prince Philip died, we were the only club in the UK that didn't play the national anthem before the game that Saturday. And and the reason is we were playing against Cliftonville, and we can check the reasons for this, but the thing was we would do a round of applause instead of playing the national anthem. But actually, that's really offensive, especially for the Queen, because the Queen was still alive at the time. And so Prince Philip's died that week. We have the home match on the Saturday. Everyone in the UK, every single football match in the top tiers played the national anthem, God Save the Queen, as it was then. And for some reason we didn't play it. And I thought, this has got to be a joke. It's a wind-up. Because even the away team, Cliftonville, even though it's quite a traditionally like Catholic, Irish nationalist type of team, they wouldn't have found an offence in that at all. So there was that controversy. And around the same time, we signed a guy who had just been released from prison due to some sex controversy. So those two little controversies
things mixed up.
Well, look, if you're gonna sign someone, don't muck around. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
I was just wondering whether the audio recording of the anthem didn't work that day or something like that. Whether they came up with the next.
We've got 1,000 fans that go to the match. I'd probably have that on my phone. I could play it on my phone if you want it. If you want to find God Save the King or God Save the Queen, you've got it. So whatever excuse was used, we did have the Union flag, the British, Union Jack, Union flag. We had that flying, and we did the applause. But it's just a bit strange that the anthem wasn't played, especially when he died, and then the Queen died a few years later. Actually, I can't remember, but it was pretty close with the two monarchs dying, wasn't it? Prince Philip died, and then the Queen died.
September 22. Yeah.
So
because I remember going through the traditional shopping streets of London on a double-decker bus, and the flags from the Jubilee were still hanging out. So yeah, that was. So when did you actually go to? Yeah. When did you go to Bournemouth? Because did you go for work or?
Yeah. Well, the answer is going to be I went for everything. I went for life, work, studies, friends, bars, restaurants. So it's not really a long story. I'm in the process of writing a book about it. The book is, I would say, it's 60% finished. But the story is, so I grew up in Bangor, which in Northern Ireland, we like to think of that as a little bit of a seaside town or a seaside city. We've got a beach, right? And, you'll go to the beach and you'll just see people walking their dogs. You know, that's what happens. You don't see loads of people swimming and surfing.
No.
I mean, we're not Boscombe, but it always fascinated me that Bangor begins with B, and the beach that we have is called Ballyhome. So we've got BB, Bangor, Ballyhome, and then you've got Bournemouth, Boscombe. It had fascinated me from an early age. I don't know why it was. It was this double B thing. I was thinking, like, am I actually really from here, or should I be living there? It was always in my mind. And there is also the fact that in 1986, Colin Clark, who was at Bournemouth at the time, he was our top scorer, I think, that season, rocketing the goals in. And he'd only ever scored one goal for Northern Ireland before the World Cup. But Billy Bingham put him on the second game. And I think, you know, to be honest, Clarkey should have started the first game against Algeria. For some reason, he was left out of that game. We played Stephen Penny, and I think we would have beaten Algeria with Clarkey on. So the first match we drew 1-1 with Algeria. Second match, 1986 World Cup, we lost 2-1 to Spain, but it was narrow. You know, we battered them second half, and Clarkey scored the header. And when I looked him up, I remember, because in those days he didn't have internet. You'd look it up. I had to look it up in the newspaper or a magazine or a Panini album, and you'd find out that he plays for AFC Bournemouth. So I started, you know, researching that with the old Match and Shoot magazines. Yeah. And you'd get your league table out and you'd be like, oh, there's Bournemouth. They're the Cherries. They're red and black. They're like AC Milan of the third division. Of fourth division. You know, so there was a fascination there. And then by coincidence, my parents took me on holiday to Bournemouth one summer. The craziest thing about that is Mum and Dad, you know, they're just taking us on a summer holiday, basically, right? So they're obviously looked up where to go somewhere in the south of England. We'd already been to like Devon and Cornwall. So Dorset was the next one. So I'd had a family holiday in Cornwall, you know, did like Truro, Boswinger, Devon. We stayed in a few places in Devon and Avon as it was then. And then we ended up in Bournemouth in 1994 this summer. So the World Cup had just finished. I ended up in Bournemouth. Obviously there was no representation for me there because Northern Ireland weren't there, but Republic of Ireland were, with a guy on their squad that used to go to the same school as my mates in Bangor. So Alan Kernahan played in that World Cup, but he's actually from Northern Ireland. So interesting. But the 94 was my first official visit to Bournemouth. So I would class myself as being a Cherry since 1994, but that it was in my mind since 1986. But my dad is still a big Spurs fan. So we were always brought up to, you know, to support Spurs. And I was thinking to myself, not really for me. You know, I did watch a few Spurs games. I mean, Sheringham and Gascoigne and that was a great team to watch. I think Klinsmann was there around the time I was in Bournemouth as well. And Dad was also a fan of, you know, Danny Blanchflower and Pat Jennings from his era of that. So even though my dad would sort of put the Spurs game on or something, and I'd watch Gaza, the magic was not to support a team that is that massive, you know. I'm a small town boy, so but Bournemouth are massive now. That's the thing.
It's funny, isn't it? How things.
I always wanted to support a third or fourth division club, and now we're Premier League. You know, it's wild.
So you're gonna look for a new team then? I'm just kidding.
Well, I have actually been to watch the Poppies, which is Bournemouth FC in winter.
I used to play for them. I used to play for them, Poppies.
Oh, did you? Maybe I watched you, man. Yeah.
That was I
think it was warm on the bench quite a bit.
Yeah, actually, no. I used to play. I played for the reserves. I played for. I was a regular in the reserves. I don't think I played for the first team. That was Pete Morrell was the manager, right, for the first when I used to play, and then Paul Morrell, obviously ex-Bournemouth.
Paul Morrell,
yeah. He used to play in the team, and then later on, and we always have a little joke about this, me and Nick. I played for Paul Borough, and yet again, both Morells were Pete was the manager, Paul would play. It was the best team I've ever played in for like football. I was a bench warmer then, but the it was a laugh. It was such an hilarious, yeah. But
You-
then
you-
the
you used to-
Morels, oh sorry, mate,
Yeah,
the
go on, mate.
Morels were actually technically not family friends, but we've known them for years because they used to live next door to my mum's best friend in Parkstone.
The Morels are famous for me only for knowing that in 1984, wasn't it 84, we won that that cup up at Hull. What was that cup we won? The Members' Cup, something like the members of the FA Members' Cup.
I don't know about
Wow, there we go.
84, yeah.
Both Matt and I.
One of the Morels was playing. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Wow, for Bournemouth.
Yeah. But because they played it in Hull's old stadium. Was it Boothferry Park? I'm sure if that is Boothferry Park, because that's the other thing I did as a kid. I was looking at all the stadiums. You know, what are the nicknames of every club?
My brother did.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I can check.
Like you. Go on, sorry.
The 84 Hull away, and we won the cup up there. Just when you mentioned the Morels, that's what stuck in my mind from it.
Yeah, no, they were great lads to play with and under, I should say, more than anything. And even now, I'm best mates with him on Facebook, as we say, with Pete.
Paul Morel scored the winner. I've just checked it. Yeah.
Yep.
Paul Morel scored the winner against Hull away in the 73rd minute. We were 1-0 down. We beat them 2-1 away, and we won what was classed as the 1984 Associate Members' Cup final.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that. But mind you, 1984, I was living in Spain, and I'd never heard of AFC Bournemouth. I only found out about Bournemouth in '87 when someone came to visit us from Bournemouth, and they said, "Oh, Bournemouth are doing well this season." I'm thinking, I didn't even know they had a team.
Harry Redknapp.
Yeah.
I should be wearing this shirt and saying that at the same time. Oh man,
we've all got history, you know. There's not every Northern Irish man dreams of supporting the Cherries. There's a few of us actually now, but it's not. If you go to school in Bangor in Northern Ireland, and everyone supports Leeds or Man United or Liverpool, even Everton back in those days. And then, you know, I used to wind people up, tell them I supported Wimbledon, and you know because Wimbledon were the totally the uncool team to support back then, but they were brilliant.
Were they?
Yeah. Well, because they would just pump the ball up from the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Route one.
Route one. John Fashion, Dean Holdsworth would, scramble the ball in for a 1-0 win against, Liverpool away or something. So Wimbledon, I always actually quite like watching them because they were unpredictable, you know.
They were in the FA Cup final in '88 when they won 1-0 and Dave Besant made a penalty save.
Yeah,
I was watching that live in Spain. And I'm thinking, what is this thing? Because they played Liverpool. I'm thinking, I've never heard of Wimbledon. You think of the tennis, you know what I mean? So
yeah. Well, I think the last game I ever watched Bournemouth play, I think it was against Wimbledon, and Vinny was still in the team.
Right.
I can't remember. It had to have been a friendly or something. Pardon?
That's your famous recollection of what Vinnie Jones did. Go on, say it.
Okay, so it was a penalty to Wimbledon, and the South End was giving Vinny some stick. So he just stuck two fingers up first of all, jokingly, and like doing this and right. And then he puts the ball in the back of the net, and then everyone's applauding him. He turns around, drops his pants, shows him the rear end, and then with that joking it was like, Billy, off like this, come on, off you get, because there's all like the disability row there and young kids.
He didn't think that one through, did he?
No, he was just like going off. So yeah. But
it's a bit of banter. You need characters in the game. I think the modern game, you can't do that anymore. You get a red card instantly. And, you characters like Gaza, Vinnie Jones, growing up, these were the characters, and they would get yellow cards and red cards and do stupid things. But it was part of the game back then. It's not part of the game now to do that.
Well, I think Gaza got a yellow card for giving the referee a yellow card, wasn't it? Because he dropped it. He dropped it, but like that.
Di Canio did something like that. Do you remember Di Canio pushed the referee?
Oh yeah, Di Canio. Oh yeah, I remember Carlo Di Canio.
And then the West Ham lot, I can't remember. I think Ian Wright scored, but that was who was the ex? It was the ex-Liverpool defender. I can't remember his name. But then no, who played at the time, and then basically everyone was pushing. I think Ian over, and everyone was like rolling over to like take the mickey out of the referee.
Yeah, Neil Ruddock. Wasn't Neil Ruddock, was it?
That's it. Yeah, Razor.
Neil
Ruddock.
Yeah. He's a massive guy now. Have you seen him? He's massive.
Yeah.
When he played, he was quite fit. He's a bullish character. Like he probably should have had more England caps, to be fair. He was a tough lad, Neil Ruddock. And yeah, he played with Sheringham and all those boys. They had a lot of banter going on at that time. My dad was always watching Spurs in those days when Ruddock was there as well.
Yeah,
I remember talking about Gazza giving the referee a yellow card. I always remember going to the old Galston ground in Brighton, and I think I was in my second year of uni because I did a franchise course, Bournemouth University franchise course at Salisbury. So we drove down from Salisbury all the way down to Brighton, and it was a rainy day, and we got there. We saw the match. I think it was in January, and Bournemouth were leading 3-1 at the Galston ground, and then the referee slips and injures himself. So Steve Cotterill reaches down to the referee's pocket and gives him a red card. Gives him a red card. I think I've never ever seen that in football, but in that old stadium, we were getting drenched because there was no undercover. I was in denim. And afterwards, we're in a pub somewhere. We're laying our clothes out on the radiators of the pub, just trying to dry it before we were heading back. I mean, it was a great away day. That was. I haven't been to many stadiums actually, to be honest, but that was one of the memorable ones. And that was a historic ground of Brighton Hove Albion. And we had a uni mate who was a Brighton fan, and there's a couple of us Bournemouth fans as well. And so neither him or us. We'll be asked, what's your team? And I say Bournemouth. No. What's your real team? I said, well, last time I checked, Bournemouth was a real team.
Yeah, but Nick,
this is the early 90s.
This is what really annoyed me when I started backpacking around the world when it came to football. So I'd walk into a pub, right, and I'm looking for the football, and they're showing like Liverpool, Man United, all crap teams like that, right? You name all those like rubbish teams that no one's heard of, Chelsea, Man City, all Everton. So I walk in wearing a Cherries shirt. What team do you support? So I'm sitting there thinking, wait a moment. A guy watching the Man City match or the Man United match is asking me what team I support when I'm wearing a Bournemouth shirt, right? So my response would be, let me guess. I'm wearing a Bournemouth shirt. So is it possible that I actually support them because I'm actually wearing, and I've got a tattoo here of the badge. So,
really? I didn't know that. Oh, look at that. Yeah. Is that the old? That's the old crest, is it?
Yeah. I got it in 2005. Actually, a funny story with that was, I was supposed to get a tattoo if we beat Sheffield Wednesday at home. But what happened was Gareth O'Connor scored and it was 1-0, but they equalised in the 94th minute. So I said to my mate, I'm still going to get that tattoo. I don't count that goal. So it's like Higginbotham or Heckingbottom scored in the 94th minute.
I remember that.
Like from a corner, destroying our dreams of a playoff for that season. And I said, I'll get the tattoo anyway. So, yeah, I know what you mean, Nick, because people go, what's your real team? And I go, well, wait a minute. Northern Ireland is my real country. That's a real team. They've been in the World Cup. Bournemouth is my real team. They may not have been, we may not have been in an FA Cup final yet, but we've been in, Auto Windscreens Trophy, Millennium Stadium. We've won 3 different divisions. We've won the 2nd tier, 3rd tier, 4th tier, and there's a geek fact about Bournemouth, which is brilliant. A lot of your listeners might not know this, but we're the only club in English football history, right, of the 92 that have never finished bottom of a division. We've never finished bottom. Every other club you can think of, even Liverpool and Manchester United, at some point, they've finished bottom. We've never finished bottom. If you look all the times we got relegated, we were 2nd, 3rd, or 4th bottom. We've never finished bottom.
Wow. I'm sure as well that we used to have the largest pitch in the Football League, didn't we, at one point?
Not sure about that one, actually. I have to check that, but yeah.
I've got to look that one up now. I've opened my mouth. I've got to back it up.
Yeah. You know, there's
Because
always
normally,
Used to. I know it used to be massive. It used
Yeah.
to be, if not one of the biggest. It used to be wide and long.
yeah.
So its capacity, what you could have in it. Let's have a look.
Hmm.
oh, here we go. Here we go. The Google things, because we make these things, we say these things, and then the following episode go an
Yeah.
apology.
It's more me. It's more me. I open my mouth. Nick's got all the brains. I've got holes somewhere that just leaks information out that's probably not even correct.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But no, I posted, I think, about Bournemouth being the only team not to have ever finished bottom of the league.
Wow.
And some Everton fan wrote something on there, go, "Oh, Everton have never finished bottom." And I just went, have a look at this then. So there was a season where Everton actually came bottom. But it's of the 92. You know, when you go down deeper, there'll be other clubs that have never finished bottom, but they're not in the 92 of the, you know, the league.
Yeah, the top four. Top.
Yeah.
Maybe Paul Bower finished bottom, did it one season, Matt?
Pardon?
Did Paul Bower finish bottom one season? I'm just kidding.
Mate, I was only there for the first season, and we absolutely topped every team by at least 8-0.
Yeah. It sounds like Eddie Howe at Cherries, like beating Birmingham away 8-0.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Vanti getting 2 goals, wasn't it?
I was at that one. That's one of my it's one of my favorite games to have been at, you know, because I only really count matches I was at. If someone says, what was your favorite match? I'm looking at one that I was at.
Yes.
So yeah, okay. Birmingham away, like Ranty, as you mentioned, Mark Pugh got a hat trick, and Arthur Bourne saved a penalty. Yeah, and I was hungover. I arrived in the stadium. My mate had been taking us out for the drinks in Birmingham on the night before, right? We'd stayed over. I was supposed to be reviewing a hotel for my blog, and I woke up with a hangover, and the landlord came in and went, you didn't tell me you were a Cherries fan. He was a Birmingham City season ticket holder. He said to me, you better check out of the hotel before the kickoff, but not as a joke, because I was checking out anyway. And he said, but just don't beat us today. And I said, well, in the bar last night, all my mates said that we're going to give you a hammering today. And then we beat them 8-0. And in the bar after the game, he actually bought me a drink. So all's well that ends well. And I said, look, sorry, mate, but, you know, Birmingham will be back someday. You know, but
well, they got into Europe, didn't they? Because they won the League Cup before that.
Yeah.
That's a big surprise.
They beat Liverpool in the final, didn't they? Or was it Arsenal? It was one of those two.
One of those two. But yeah.
Matt, are you the man for the memory of the League Cup finals?
I'm not very good at the League Cup finals, but I do remember the Birmingham winning it because it was just not normal. Just like Wigan beating Manchester City in the FA Cup final. Was it 1-0 or something like that?
I watched that in Hong Kong on my mate's laptop in a flat on about the 20th floor. We were having a beer. And we were like, we really wanted Wigan to win, you know, small team.
Of course. Yeah.
And I think it was the last minute or something, the header.
It was. Yeah. That was, oh man, Hong Kong.
Right. Okay. Sorry, interrupt you there. At the moment, it's Forest. It's a City ground. Then Goodison, Emirates, Villa Park. I knew Villa was up there. And then we're fifth.
Oh,
yeah, right. Largest pitch per
is
square
that in
meter.
the Premier League or all 4 divisions, Matt?
Well, it used to, I was counting back then. This is going back a few years. This looks like this is Premier at the moment. I actually typed into Google, Brave. I typed in English leagues.
Well, Goodison will be losing Goodison soon anyway. Everton are moving. So we'll move up probably, unless their new pitch is the same size.
Yeah.
I know. Well, there you go. Did you see? You obviously saw the Bournemouth Southampton game.
Oh, Nick, what a story! Yeah, so I've basically moved into a new flat. This is it. I actually moved flats this week, right? So on Monday, so I've moved in. I was knackered, right? And you can even tell by looking at my eyes the other night. I was just ready for bed. But the Cherries match was on at 9 p.m. Polish time because I live in Poland now. And, you know, so I'm like, where's going to show that? So I went into the Irish pub. There's an Irish pub in Ulster where I live now. I went in there. They don't do sports. It's an Irish
What?
pub. Yeah, they don't show it. So very interesting, though. But the barman was great crack. Anyway, so I said to him, "Look, is there another bar?" And he said, "Oh yeah, sports bar around the corner." I walked in on my own. There's a couple in there having a drink. The chef's there, the barmaid's there. And I said to her, I spoke in Polish to her, I said, have you got the Bournemouth game on? And what they did was they got the box out and they spent about 10 minutes tweaking things, and up it comes, right in time for kickoff. I have a pint of Guinness and Cherries start. And of course, the first 10 minutes of that match, if you remember, was quite nervy. I thought Southampton were attacking us.
Yeah,
and I was like, "Oh, is this gonna be a tough South Coast derby?" Even though on paper,
I thought that
we're clearly the better team, on paper. And then after that wee scare, then it all came together and we smashed them really. So yeah, it was a good Monday night, live on Sky, live around the world, and the South Coast is ours. Boston,
I was going to say I've got an important question to ask. What was the Guinness like over there?
Pretty good. I'm actually very ambivalent, or I'm not I don't criticize places that much if they're making an effort to do something to a good level. If a bar is making the effort to serve Guinness and sell it the way it should be, for me, it's always going to be a 9 out of 10. The only time I would criticize it is if you don't get it in the proper glass, or they pour it straight in one pour or something. But no, it's
in a can. They do the can and they put it on that vibrating plate.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, when I worked in Hong Kong for a while, I worked in an Irish pub in Hong Kong. Now, we had the real Guinness. I say the real Guinness. Everything's real, isn't it? But we had proper Guinness from a tap, from the kegs. We used to get them imported in. Yeah, but people love to say, "Oh, it's not the same," and it's Guinness doesn't taste the same as it does in Dublin. Well, people just love to say that. It's like people saying, "Oh, have you had a pizza in Italy? Then it's going to taste nicer because it's in Italy." Well, actually, to be honest, if I like my Guinness, I'm having a pint of Guinness here, and I might even say it's nicer than the one in Dublin. Then, just to annoy people, if I'm drinking it and I'm happy, it's good.
Yeah,
that's it.
So I used to live in Ireland. I used to live in the Republic. So I used to live just over the border, right? And just a mile up the road was the local pub. There's probably there's always one around the corner somewhere, right? And it was beautiful. It was a cracking pint. There was always it was always left at the back. Do you know what I mean? It was always poured out. So you go, right, Pat, I'll have 2 of them, and then just go. But then I'd go to Bournemouth if I'm having a few drinks. Daisies wasn't too bad, right?
Yeah.
But then you go other places, and like you say, I describe it like tea and coffee in Australia, right? They love their coffee over here, so they're like Tom Cruise at a cocktail, throwing everything around, chocolate, serving it like that, or just pushing it nicely towards you. Some people pouring Guinness is like how they do tea over here. They just go water, tea bag, milk, and just throw it at you. And then you look at it, there's bubbles everywhere, and you taste it. You find out it's the first pint that has been poured. So I've learned to ask now, how many pints have been poured? So
where exactly are you, Matt?
I'm in Sydney as well.
Yeah.
I am.
I was going to say, I don't know if you guys know, but I used to live in Parramatta, and I worked in the Irish pub there. Yeah, I worked in the Irish pub there. So if you had needed a pint of Guinness, I was your man to do that from 2009 to 2011. So for two seasons or 2 years, I was Irish barman there, and I loved it actually. I loved Parramatta and my life there.
It's changed a lot actually, because they've installed what's it called, the trams and all that sort of stuff. So I used to work in Parramatta from 2014 to 2020.
Did you ever go into PJ Gallagher's Irish pub?
I'm sure I've gone past
remember it.
Yeah,
there's one in the city near the Grace Hotel.
Yeah, because Patrick Gallagher was the manager. I mean, he gave me a job. His wife actually did my interview. I'd only just arrived in Australia. I was a backpacker, no money. I had like $100 left. I was going out, drinking in King's Cross in Sydney, and then I woke up with a hangover, go for a job interview, and just for the job you know, in the Irish pub, and they gave me a job. I started on the Friday, and it was just brilliant.
Maybe that was the requirement to be hangover.
Yeah, well, I knew how to
sure.
serve a customer. Customer service is a priority for me. You know, if you can talk to people, you're a good barman.
So where have you been then? Because Nick said you've been around the world a bit.
Yeah, it could be a little bit of an underestimation that, but I class myself as having visited 200 countries, and then some people say to me there aren't 200 countries, and then I show them my list and go, well, actually, if I've got a passport stamp and a visa for 200 different countries, I'm counting that as 200. So yeah, I've been around the world. Obviously, lived in a few places on the way. Worked in a hell of a lot of different places, like 50 jobs or something. And traveling, traveling Cherry, Ulster Cherry, nomadic Cherry, all of that fits with me.
Yeah. So what you do, if you don't mind me asking, what are you doing in Poland? What brought you there?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this is actually what I've been writing about. I'm still not even sure why I'm here in Poland. I know that at some point there will be a reason, but first thing is my best friend is Polish anyway at the minute. So Raphael, he lives in Warsaw, just a couple of hours south from me at the moment. He used to live in Bournemouth. He's also a Cherry because he's a Legia Warsaw fan, but because I had a lot of different jobs when I lived in Bournemouth. You know, I was down at the seafront because I'm a beach boy. You know, I love the beach. Every summer I would serve the ice creams and the cheeseburgers and hot dogs in those wee kiosks down by the beach in Bournemouth. So my history with Poland goes back kind of a little bit to linking with my life. You know, I don't belong in the UK anymore. You know, I'm fed up with all the political stuff and everything there. So the first thing is I don't belong in the UK now. I've already lived in Asia, split up with my girlfriend from Asia, and I needed to move back to Europe. I'm not a fan of France or Germany. So Poland, I like it. I like the people. Obviously, the girls are good as well, which it always helps when you're a single male, you know, abroad. What other reasons could I have for coming here? I was doing a lot of
one of them.
The food could be pierogi. Polish food's quite healthy. Obviously, you've got the bars, sense of humor, and of course, it's easy for me to find work, I guess, because I'm a teacher and a writer. I'm also a barman, and you know, I haven't done bar work for years, probably because my level of Polish isn't as high as it should be. So I probably wouldn't be as good working in a bar here as I would be when I worked in the bar in Hong Kong, and I didn't need to know Chinese because all of our customers wanted to speak English.
Hong Kong,
English, so naturally, I also became a teacher through that. I was able to teach English in Hong Kong. I had a lot of Chinese students that their English was zero, and I sort of brought them up to a level. I can do the same with Polish people, you know, on a business level now. I can do, you know, business English for Polish companies. So the work hasn't been an issue. I've done some travel writing about Poland as well. I've had some projects where they've got me to write about the best places in Poland for tourists. So all my writing and teaching work is easy to manage from Poland anyway at the moment.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I think I'd love to go to Krakow because that looks like an absolute beautiful.
Have you not been before, Nick? Never to Poland?
I've never been to Poland. I tell you what, my dad has been to Poland. He went to Poland in 1982. He did an aid trip. He did 2 aid trips to Poland. Let me see, January and June. So the first time he went in January, this is when martial law was declared. And I remember looking at his passport, and on this remember the old black cardboard British passports?
My dad had one. I escaped that era. My first passport was the burgundy. I think it was the burgundy one.
Right. Well, I've got my own black passport. That's the classic one. But he had that, and it was the whole page with a rubber stamp with the Polish visa and the East German visa, and he was delivering aid to. I think the first trip was Poznan, and then the second trip was Warsaw. and then the stories he came out with, he'd be at the East German Polish border, and he'd have to unload, or they'd inspect the vehicle, and 10 meters away was the Polish border, looking at what was happening, at his the van. And then he'd move it another 10 meters, and then they'd ask him to do the same thing again. Offload everything again. You think, come on.
Wow.
Yeah, and they had set routes. They couldn't deviate from routes. They had to have refilling routes along. They had Ostmarks, but they also had Deutschmarks, which they get stopped a couple of times en route to Poland by these. I think they weren't Stasi, but they were just military, and obviously they see this British van, and so I remember he used to give them a couple of tins of corned beef and a couple of things, and they were happy. They left, but that was interesting stories. But I haven't been to Poland. I haven't traveled much within Europe.
No, I haven't.
Probably Vienna's the most east I've been, and that's really not east at all. So I was going to ask you, have you been to Transnistria?
Yeah. So
basically, that's interesting. Tell us about it.
I'm into sort of like separatist republics or breakaway states or independence movements. Like obviously I've been to like Palestine as well, and the kind of little countries, San Marino, Gibraltar, even places like Ujupis that are, separate from Lithuania, but is it a republic? Is it not? So Transnistria was always on my mind. But when I went there, you could only get a 1-day visa. It was basically quite strict. So, but I'll tell you what happened is...
Meant to be nice.
What's that, Matt? Sorry?
It's meant to be nice.
Well, actually...
How do you know that?
Yeah, it's more like... It's like a bit of a fantasy. It's like back in the USSR, it's like basically, what the Beatles were singing about is like this land of communism. But actually, Transnistria is still like that. It hasn't changed. So you go to Transnistria, you backpack across the border, people are checking your passport, like as if like it's like almost, high security.
Okay.
I walked into a local pub, and it's basically a shop that has a beer tap, and you can sit there in the shop and have a pint, and this sort of
sounds like Ireland. Certain part of Ireland a few years ago.
So Transnistria, and I think if I remember right, the beer was called Kvit or something like KVIT, as they would put it in English, and they do brandy there. I think it's famous for brandy, and there's a capital city called Tiraspol, which is now famous because Sheriff Tiraspol were in the Champions League at one point.
Okay.
So Transnistria is definitely an exciting place to visit. I'm not sure how many AFC Bournemouth fans would have been there.
Not many. But I do know that there's that natural river that goes in the north of Moldova, and there's just this thin strip on the other side of the river, which has given it that isolated feel and stuff like that. So
I crossed the river on a bridge. The Dniester River, it's called. It sounds like a footballer, Dniester. It sounds like Andres Iniesta, but it's Dniester, and it's a wavy little river.
Cool. I was going to show you a flag. See if you can guess where it's from. Let's have a look. You probably know.
Okay, so I'm gonna have a guess. It's either Shetland or Orkney. I think it's Shetland. Is it Shetland Islands?
Shetland, yes. Shetland.
Yeah.
That's right. I went there.
I partied. I've got a story about similar to that flag. Is I take my Northern Ireland flag when I travel, right? And I was backpacking in Peru in 2010, and I just finished the Inca Trail. You hike to Machu Picchu.
Brilliant, isn't it?
You're on a high. It's an amazing place. So we had a bottle of champagne. Someone had brought a bottle of champagne onto the train. We got a train after coming down from the hike. We went from Aguas Calientes to Cusco, and everyone's realized it's Christmas Day. So I went to Machu Picchu on Christmas Day, and we got
no way.
Yeah, I was in Machu Picchu on Christmas Day 2010. I got a passport stamp with that one.
I did, I got that.
Highlights. And so I get back to a hostel, and I'm standing in the hostel, and there's this absolutely beautiful young girl just dancing having a time of her life, and she's got a flag, and it's a Shetland Island flag, and I go,
No
because I
way.
knew it. Hey, I knew it. I said to her, "You're from the Shetlands, aren't you?" And she goes, "Yeah." How do you know that? I said, "Well, you got the flag." But most people, when they travel, they didn't know what that flag was. I get it with Northern Ireland as well. People don't recognize the Northern Ireland flag. They look at that and go, "Oh, it's not Irish. It's not green." Well, just because it's Ireland doesn't have to be green. I mean, Italy play in blue. There's no blue in their flag, right?
Yes,
It's
that's right.
green, white, and red. The Netherlands play in orange. There's no orange in their flag. So with the Northern Ireland flag, flying it around the world, you get questions. So the Shetlands one, what's the story though, Nick? Why have you got a Shetlands flag?
Well, I went to the Shetland Islands because my aunt and uncle live in Aberdeen, and I went there in 2016, and I only had 3 days in Aberdeen that particular time. So last time I went, I was there for 5 days, and I thought, you know what, they couldn't put me up this last time, so I thought, okay, so the hotel are most expensive on Friday nights and Saturday nights. So I thought, you know what, I've always wanted to go to the Shetlands. I'll catch a ferry, an overnight ferry, because they're the same price no matter what day you travel. So I thought, catch an overnight ferry on the Friday, hire a car, see the Shetland Islands, and go and see the puffins in the south, and then some of the I think it's called Frankie's, the most northern fish and chip shop in the UK.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's
which
a good
is
fact.
So I went there, and then I just spent a day in Shetland, and then came back on the overnight ferry on Saturday night, and then did some other stuff in Aberdeenshire when I got back there on Sunday, and so yes, but I count that as a country because
Right.
it's
I mean, everyone has their own opinion. I mean, James Hayter's from Isle of Wight, isn't he? So Isle of Wight. I used to work on the Isle of Wight, on the ferries. I worked for White Link. You know the White Link? They do the Isle of Wight. I used to do Yarmouth, Lymington on the ferry. I was the barman on the ferry. I was
wow. You've done all sorts of jobs here.
Well, I would do that. I would cook the food as well, but basically it was just sticking a Cornish pasty in a microwave, right? That was it. That was your cuisine. Although I'd put a bit of tomato sauce on the side, make it look a bit better. But
a bit nicer.
Yeah.
Well,
like MasterChef.
Yeah. Well, I played football in the Isle of Wight, and I call that I was playing in Europe.
Yeah, it's away. I mean, Swansea, Cardiff, and Wrexham is an away match for us. You know what I mean? We're crossing the border into Wales to play them.
Yeah.
Actually went to Scotland at Carlisle away. I did Carlisle away. Probably you guys remember, sadly, the day we got relegated, we drew at Carlisle, but still went down.
We needed to win. That was the time we won 6. We would have won 6 matches in a row.
That's it, Nick.
If we had beaten Carlisle, I remember that, and I was thinking, come on, because they weren't that great of a team, to be honest.
Although they did get into the playoffs, but what messed us up that season was Sean O'Driscoll had become the manager of Doncaster, and instead of he let us down. I think Doncaster lost to Nottingham Forest or something, which meant that Cheltenham. The way it happened, we got relegated, but a draw might have been enough, depending on other results or something.
Because we had 10-point deduction that season.
Yeah, that's right. That was Kevin Bond, wasn't it? It was Kevin Bond was the manager.
That was the start of the next deduction, which happened the following year, -17.
Yeah. Do you remember that, Matt? Yeah.
No, I remember the point deduction. My memory's hazy at best.
We had 2 points deductions in consecutive seasons. Luton Town, I think it was us and Luton did it twice in a row. And Luton, unfortunately, they had -30, so they couldn't. If you're on -30, you'll never get it back.
And what was it for again?
It must have been for the same, all this financial fair play. It's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I don't understand.
I remember
that side of.
I remember Rotherham also got a -17, and they also stayed up as well. So that was.
They were actually quite good that season. Rotherham, yeah. I mean, there was a relegation. I remember there was a It was called what was it known as when we played Luton away? It was known as something like the Black. Was it the Black? Not Black Market, but basically the derby for the two teams don't exist. You know, the -17 against the -30, and you know the teams that the AFA just want rid of. You know, they want to get rid of these teams from the division. Well, we're going to stay up. We're going to get Super Fletch, and we're going to stay
Super
up.
Fletch, man, I remember that. Yeah, but I always remember, you know, we won 1, we won 2, we won 3. Towards the end of the season, I thought we'd fall 4, 5. Can we do it? Can we do it? You know, I reckon if we'd won that last game against Carlisle, we would have stayed up. But it's just heartbreaking. I mean,
yeah, but then our history would have changed. If we'd have stayed up against Carlisle, we would have had the -17 in that division instead of in the basement division. And you know, we wouldn't have this story about, you know, Fletcher coming back, Eddie Howe calling Mark Molesley up on the phone saying, "Hey mate, can you come down and help us out?" You know, Dagenham and Redbridge on a Tuesday night with Jason Tyndall on the pitch. You know, these magnificent stories that you can't make it up. You know, Eddie Howe, like, get the hero back, and then he just come back and he kept us up. You know, it was just a fairy tale, really.
Yeah, and I think I had the honour of meeting and talking to Jeff Mostyn when I was there in 2016, and I was talking about the Blythe Spartans FA Cup exit.
Yeah,
and he said pretty much the same thing. If we had progressed, we would have gotten Sky Sports money for whatever, and it wouldn't have been the same, and this turn of events wouldn't have actually led to what Bournemouth is today, which again, I thought, oh, okay, I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah, I actually, the Blythe Spartans one's interesting because I was at the home game. We drew 0-0 with them at home on a Saturday night, and I was actually live. For some reason, that was chosen as the live game. It was like 6 or 7 p.m. It was an odd kickoff time for a Saturday. So that was the home game, it was 0-0. And 2 of my mates were going to Blythe Spartans away, it was basically one of the furthest stadiums you could go to.
I was going to ask, is that north of Newcastle or something?
Yeah,
or is that even further?
It's way north, right?
Wow.
So they asked me, did I want to go to the replay, which is on the Tuesday night? And I really wanted to go, but I had to work in the Pavilion Theatre that night as a barman. I think we had Peter Pan on or something, because I used to do the bar. Yeah, I used to do the bar for the theatre events. We had, you'd get to meet some celebrities through that. I think it was Avril Lavigne played in the Bic, and I got to meet her. I opened the door, go into Avril Lavigne's room to deliver drinks, and Avril Lavigne's sitting there in her knickers. You know, these types of stories that if you tell people them, they're like going, "Did that really happen?" But of course, I didn't even have a smartphone in those days, so it wasn't like, "Oh, Avril, can we just get a selfie on my
in your knickers?"
Yeah. So I don't know how I went from Blythe to Avril Lavigne there, but because I had to work in that job on the bar, I chose working over going to Blythe away. I don't know if I regret that, because it would still be quite cool to say that you went to Blythe and got beat by a non-league team in the FA Cup in the 90th minute, in the furthest away you could ever be, and that
in the freezing cold.
In the freezing cold, and it's probably one of the lowest points of AFC Bournemouth history.
Yeah.
And then 5 years later, we've gone to Chelsea and beat them 1-0. And in that time scale, Chelsea had become the champions of Europe. So, you know, to go from losing 1-0 to Blythe to then beating Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, you can't make this stuff up, like, you know.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, because you're actually going to watch the Leicester game, aren't you?
Yeah, so I go. I'd love to go to a few more games, but every season I sort of look at the fixtures and go, I'm going to pick a stadium that I haven't been to. And it just came up that it's Leicester. I thought I'll go to Leicester this time. I'm also a bit of a fan of Jamie Vardy. So, you know, sometimes obviously you go to a match to support your team, but I saw Vardy play live before at Dean Court. I think we beat him 4-2. And it's actually going to be probably the last time I'll see Vardy play, you know, live. Just a character.
How old is he now? Is he 39 or is he?
I'm not sure actually how old he is, but he 1 or 2 seasons and he'll be finished, you know. But I mean, he won the Premier League. He lived the dream. He's sort of like every little boy growing up. That's what you want to do. You want to be a Vardy. You know,
37.
Yeah, 37. you
But he
know,
played
so
non-league, didn't he? He came up. I think he was signed for £10,000 by someone.
yeah,
Or
well, it was Fleetwood Town. He was at Fleetwood.
Fleetwood. Okay.
But I think Fleetwood were probably in the 4th division, but he was playing non-league. But you know, hopefully we'll beat them anyway. You know, because I think we beat them there last time. Phil Billing, I think, scored the winner. We beat them 1-0 away. It's a tough ground to go to, though.
It is.
But I'd like
It is.
to
I was
think
going to ask you what you think about it, because I saw them play Arsenal, and they were 2-2 up until
that's it.
very late on.
Yeah,
and Arsenal
it won't be
scored
an
2
easy
goals.
game.
No, I don't think so.
I'm just trying to think who else they have. Yeah, because Leicester, they used to have Kasper Schmeichel, but since he left, they've definitely gone downhill. But
They have.
you know, we should beat them, but you just never know in football. Like going to Leicester on a Saturday, it's going to be a tough game there. And you know, the fight of Leicester and the history that they've won the Premier League.
Yeah,
not many clubs can claim that since 1992, since they changed the name.
That's right.
What's it, 7? Is it 7 teams? Sorry, on a tangent there. Is it 7 teams? I think have only won.
Yeah, I think we could go through the match. So we go Man United, Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Blackburn,
Leicester,
and Chelsea, and I think that's it.
7, yeah. Because
So
I had a pub quiz about a month ago, and I got it.
Yeah. Well, Blackburn and Leicester are the best stories there for me, you know, because they're the kind of smaller team, you know, but living the dream.
I was actually born near Blackburn, but even when in the 90s, when Blackburn was doing well, Blackburn signed Chris Sutton and Alan Shearer and and all those good players. Even then, my uni mate said, "You should be a Blackburn fan. You should be a Blackburn fan." I said, "Well, no. Even though I was born near Blackburn, I still, my loyalty was still with Bournemouth because I don't know. I'd already made my mind up, you know." But I was going to say the last time I've only been to Leicester once, and the only time I went, well, that was the Sunday when the World Cup Spain '82 was played, Italy versus West Germany, and the people we were staying with, they were quite religious and they wouldn't let me watch the final. And I'm thinking, my first World Cup final, and they wouldn't let me watch it. And that's my memories of Leicester. You know, I'm thinking I'm never going back then. I haven't been back to Leicester since. But oh man,
it wasn't there a fact about that World Cup final? That was the first World Cup final where a player missed a penalty. There was an Italian guy missed a penalty in that.
Was that Rossi? Rossi?
It wasn't Rossi. Rossi didn't hit it. Rossi scored in that game. It was 3-1.
He scored 2. He's scored 2 goals.
He scored 2. Yeah, I remember Tardelli, Marco Tardelli, with his run. He was going like this. You know, he's screaming because he's got the goal in the World Cup final. Marco Tardelli, cracking midfielder.
I remember the run. I remember the scream.
Yeah. Because it looked like he was possessed after he'd scored that goal.
That's true.
Yeah. But of course, we can watch them all on YouTube now. It's easy, you know. Probably for the next generation, just show them the George Best goals on YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's I guess we I mean, it sound like we're old people, but I mean, we know the best of both worlds, and being able to go out and, you know, if you made an appointment, you know, you'd keep the appointment because there's no, oh, wait a minute, I'm running 5 minutes late kind of thing. Whereas now, it happens. I was going to, you might notice I've got an Uzbek flag in the background. I put it there as a reminder to me to ask you, because I remember hearing your story when you caught a taxi ride, or was it a taxi ride? And you were going somewhere and there was, you were sitting amongst all these different people. Tell us about that, because I was fascinated with that.
Yeah, I always wanted to visit the stands. You know, I class as the stands. Quite ironic, really. I went there when Stanislas played for the Cherries. So when we had Junior Stanislas, you know, hitting the goal against Man United from the corner, I was basically about to backpack through the stands. So my dream was to spend 6 months in the stands. I went to Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Gorno-Badakhshan, which you need a separate visa for it, Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, back into Kazakhstan, and through Karakol, Pakistan. But the Uzbek story, Nick, I think the one you're thinking of, is it the one where I shared a taxi with the guy with a bottle of whiskey? Is that the one?
Yeah, and there was a television something, or was there a
Okay.
television
So this is the story. Yeah.
That's the story. Yeah.
Yeah, this is so basically I found out about this separate republic in Uzbekistan, which is called the Republic of Karakol, Pakistan. So it's like a separate country basically because they class themselves as Karakol Paks. They've got their own flag. So you know, I mean, when you're traveling in countries like that, you have to bargain and barter yourself into like a taxi. Especially, I'm a backpacker on my own. Please take me to this city. How much do you want? So I end up getting a taxi share. There's a girl with no teeth, right? But from somewhere, she's got this gold, like fake teeth made of gold that she just puts in and makes it look like she has gold teeth. You know, I thought it was in a James Bond movie. So she gets into the taxi. I then realize that there's some guy in the front just constantly talking. And the guy in the front has got a bottle of whiskey, which I found quite obscure because my previous few days in Uzbekistan, it was very like teetotal, very Islamic, not so much alcohol available. And Whiskey Boy just gets in, cracks open a whiskey as we're leaving this city called Urgench. So we leave Urgench out into the desert wilderness of Uzbek to try to travel to Nukus. And then a guy gets in with a television, right? So I'm thinking, there's no room for this television here. So it's basically got to sit on my knee, on his knee, and we are bouncing through the desert, like, and the television's just bumping up and down. And I'm thinking to myself, there's no way this television's going to work. But he's taking it to his mate because his mate doesn't have a television. And when I say television, I'm talking like from the 1970s. You know, the sort of TV you need to hit to get it to work. You know, like CFAX wasn't even invented when that television came out. So anyway, it's bouncing up and down. Whiskey Boy, he's giving me his whiskey. And actually, this was we got there, you know, and obviously my knees took a bit of a battering from the old bumping television. But I got to this new city, checked into my hotel, and actually two things happened. When I checked into my hotel in Nukus, which is the capital of Karakol, Pakistan, I had an email from UEFA to say, congratulations, you've got your tickets for Euro 2016. So that was the exact moment that I knew that I was going to watch Northern Ireland at the Euros. And the same night, I went downstairs and there's a beautiful girl in a bar, just staring at me as soon as I walked in, like I'm an alien. I'm a legal alien. I'm a Northern Irishman in Karakol, Pakistan. And actually, she looked at me like, this guy's white. This guy looks, you know, he's got blue eyes. He's got quite light hair. Because everyone there looks like half Asian, half Russian. It's a bit of a mix. And so she knew I was foreign, but she also knew that I wanted a beer. So she's got it ready. Yeah, so my first night in Karakol, Pakistan, after Whiskey Boy, bumping television, gold teeth, James Bond movie era, welcome to Karakol, Pakistan, and I've got a beer. I got some of this pierogi. It's like like people call it dumplings, but it's really nice food. And that's my introduction. Then I'm going to the Euros. So I had 5 months then. That would have been January 2016. So I then knew I had 5 months to prepare for getting back to the Euros in France. I actually managed to do 2 Cherries games on the way. I did
on the way. Wow.
Yeah, I did Everton away that season. We lost 2-1. Mark Pugh scored, and I did West Brom at home. Matt Ritchie. So I did. There was a 1-1 with Matt Ritchie. It was against West Brom. And yeah, so I did those 2, and then I went to the Euros. That was 2016 story from Uzbekistan then, Nick.
Right. And I noticed you haven't mentioned Turkmenistan. Was it really hard to get in, or is it just possible?
I have been. Yeah, I mean, I'm a travel blogger as well. So for people that know a bit about that industry, is, you know, we make money online as bloggers, but it's done in a kind of way where you have to be real and authentic to kind of make it. So it'd been difficult for me to get a visa there, but through my contacts as a travel blogger, I was able to get a company to part sponsor my trip. So I was able to get in to Turkmenistan, but they would only let me stay there for 6 days. So you basically, you've got to do their strict visa thing. And actually I went with my Polish mate, Pavel. It's a very interesting story because I met him in Paraguay. So my other Polish mate that's a big backpacker, I met him when I was backpacking in Paraguay, and then 7 years later, we ended up in Turkmenistan together doing a tour to the doors of hell. In Turkmenistan, there's this, like, door of hell. I don't know if you guys have been. Have you been to Turkmenistan?
No, but I know that they had this crater and they just wanted to finish off all the gas in 1970 something, and they lit it, and it's just been lit ever since.
That's what it is. It's a crater. Yeah. If any of you want to check it, just Google like Turkmenistan gas crater, and it's just, you go there.
I've heard of it. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah. No,
I didn't mean to stop you. I didn't mean to stop you. Carry on, please. Carry on.
That's it. It's just a gas crater, and you see it. You have a beer, and you have your dinner, and then you go to sleep. That's it. Yeah.
You take your sausages and then just cook them. Just go over the gas crater. Oh man, there's so many places. It's just although the world has gotten smaller through communications and technology, it's still massive. It's just it's amazing to hear all your stories. I just wanted to round off this with what do you think your prediction for the season will be for AFC Bournemouth?
Yeah, I've become very accustomed to Iraola's way of playing, his tactics, his style. I think he's such a passionate manager. I never really thought that we could get anyone better than Eddie Howe ever, but I've really warmed to Iraola. If he can push for us, we might get an FA Cup semi-final, or the dream would be to get to an FA Cup final, to be honest. That's the big one, because people talk about getting into Europe, top 4, top 7. We're not going to be able to break into the top 4. When Leicester did it, it was like a little bit of a fairy tale. We're not going to be top 4. But we're not in the bottom 3, because there are 3 clubs at least that are worse than us. So we're going to be mid-table. But to push for an FA Cup semi, come on, let's try. Let's try and focus on at least, giving the fans some legacy to remember. We don't want to say, we once finished 9th in the Premier League. We want to say we went to Wembley and lost to Man City in an FA Cup final.
6-0 like Watford.
But because we're out of the League Cup anyway, West Ham knocked us out of that one. So but at least we can focus on. We've only 2 focuses then. Focus on the league and Iraola, if he does this season and gets us, into Europe or into a final, he will stay. If he doesn't, maybe someone will nab him because he's such a good manager. He's a young manager.
And they're all raving about him. They're all And same as Semenyo, they're all talking about Semenyo being in a top 4 club. I'm thinking, shush, be quiet.
Well,
we lost Solanke. We lost him, but we're replacing them.
But I mean, look, I guess that's a good thing, because sometimes that's part of you attracting good players, but they know they can progress and then move on.
And it's a great part of the world to play. Do you know what I mean? There's worse places you can play at.
There's something about the seaside. It's magical. It's like you can go to Boscombe on your day off and go to the pier, or you can just go and go to Poole Quay, or Wareham. Just the south coast, Dorset is a lovely part of the country. And a big Steve Fletcher said that he fell in love with the place as well. He's from Hartlepool originally, and he loves Bournemouth. That's part of me is I'm into the town, not just the club. The whole there's something about Bournemouth that is a magic there.
Well, I think Darren Anderton had a place before he played for Bournemouth, and I don't know if he's still got a place down in Poole still, but I know that he was there before.
Yeah, I mean, he is he from Pompey originally, maybe? But he's
Yeah.
he definitely. I think he still is. Maybe Sandbanks or somewhere. Harry Redknapp and him are probably mates.
Yeah.
Yeah, or neighbours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if I can afford Sandbanks one day, who knows? Yeah.
Who knows? All right. Well, I'm honoured to have you on,
Yeah. Thank
Johnny.
you.
It's been really good, and I just wanted it to be, just a laid back, just get to meet you and get to know who you are and all these adventures. And I know we could probably talk for hours and hours, but
Yeah.
I just thank you so much for your time, especially as you just moved house.
Yeah.
And you're probably about to do some packing up to go to England. So thank you so much for making this time available to us. So
No worries. I mean, it's
and
always good
definitely
to
have
be on.
and definitely have you back for more travel talk and stuff. I mean, we could just go on for hours. I know that for sure.
I
Yeah.
got a feeling we didn't even scratch the surface. Am I right?
That's right, Matt. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if I haven't yet mentioned like the Grimsby match or something, there's still a lot to go into. You know, or the 6-0 James Hayter with the Wrexham game. You know, it's just so much football. Football doesn't stop, does it? I mean, it's endless. The stories.
But we talked about that 6-0 in I think our only second or third podcast, didn't we? Because
so,
James Hayter's parents had to leave early because to catch the last ferry home. Remember that?
Yeah.
And you said it was the most expensive ferry crossing, but then we found out it wasn't. So then we did
that's true.
apologies thing.
Well, I met him in a bar one night in Bournemouth. So
that was a great interview by Johnny. Thanks so much for coming on. And
cheers,
we
mate.
just have enough time for our weekly Premier League predictions for match day 7. So let's get into it. So you might notice I'm at the King Power Stadium at Leicester City in the background, and we have 10 wonderful fixtures to try and guess. So first up at 12:30 on Saturday is Crystal Palace versus Liverpool.
Oh,
what do you reckon, Matt?
Pointless.
Another pointless one.
Pointless.
It wasn't Nottingham Forest. It wasn't Liverpool. Nottingham Forest pointless as well.
Moving on, please.
Moving on. I say, look, I try to give Crystal Palace the benefit, but I'm going to say a 2 for Liverpool and away win.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, I would love to see Palace do it, mate. And that's nothing on Liverpool fans or anything like that. But, mate, they
ain't going to happen just yet. Anyway,
not at all.
Only when the Palace play Man City, then they'll do it.
Yeah.
Because they have a history of beating Man City.
Yeah.
Now your favourite team, Arsenal versus Southampton. This is a home fixture at the Emirates.
They're sort of well, I would, right, and I am, but just they're normally the bogey team. Southampton normally do something every so
against
often.
Arsenal?
Yeah,
really?
Every so often. Yeah, they come up and their teams, not that good.
Right. Okay, Brentford versus Wolves. I'm actually giving this one to Wolves. What do you reckon?
Yeah, me too, mate. I'm going to agree with you there. I really am. I've got to go against you soon.
Yeah. It's right.
Pointless otherwise.
Okay. All right. So this is the one that we're all interested. Leicester versus Bournemouth. I'll let you go first.
Yeah, mate. Do you know what? Leicester aren't doing that well. I'm going to go a Bournemouth win.
Same. I was going to say the same thing. Yeah. So that's 4 results. Both you and me have got there. Now we've got another one that we should move on from Manchester City versus Fulham. Why are you even thinking? I'm putting my one down already. Yep.
I'm going to go draw. Right.
You're going to go draw?
I'm going to go draw.
Sorry. I'm going to put it down. You said draw, bang. I put it right. Yeah, so you can't change it now.
Yeah.
West Ham United versus Ipswich Town.
That I'm probably going to give to the Mighty Hammers.
Really? Oh my goodness. I'm actually going to give it to Ipswich. I'm going to go an away win for Ipswich Town. You're going to give it a home win to the Hammers. All right. Finally, some different ones. Everton versus Newcastle.
Oh. Who's higher in the league at the moment? In Newcastle?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, mate. I'm gonna go draw. I'm gonna go draw on that.
Me too. I was going to put a draw.
Oh,
I reckon Everton are gonna maybe spring a surprise.
I
I think
thought.
Sean's given them a kick up the backside since the Bournemouth game.
Yeah. I was gonna say Newcastle, to be honest, but I'll go draw just to be safe. I think.
Aston Villa versus Manchester United.
I'll go Villa.
Yeah, same here.
Go Villa. The way I was going.
Chelsea versus Forest.
Okay.
I'm
Forest.
going to go Chelsea. Are you going Forest? Okay, I'm
Go
going
Forest
Chelsea
for our Glenn.
for your Glen. And the Seaweed versus Tottenham. Brighton Hove Albion, for those that don't know what Seaweed is yet.
Well, look, Brighton are slightly on the slip, aren't they? And
that's what you said last week and the week before. I think you were right.
I'm going to go, mate. I'm going to. Well, do you know what? I'm going to. I shouldn't say it, but I'm going to go for a Spurs win, mate.
Spurs win. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for Spurs win too. So that's it. We're done. I think you won last week's one again. Nick 3, Matt 5. It's all those extra hours you've been putting in.
It's good. I'm doing this. What you don't see is underneath. I'm going Forest. Or I do this. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Spurs. Mate, it's just is what it is, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's
I think it's great. So we're done. Thanks for watching this far, and don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe to the channel.
Yes,
and have more exciting content for you week in, week out. Cheers.
Take care. See ya.